So, on budget day and in the midst of the slowest recession recovery on record, it is hard to see how the UK's progress could be judged by anything else but the economy.
But the United Nations believes the country's success should also be assessed by something rather different: happiness. And they've declared today the first International Happiness Day.
So we asked people to measure how happy they were, and what else would you use but a tape measure?
I'm very happy. Been married to my lovely wife for 32 years. And the best thing I ever did.
Very happy because I'm going to learn how to make some cupcakes today and eat them all.
What makes you happy? Why are you happy?
I'm engaged to be married. Why not?
Okay.
Right.
Why are you happy?
Why am I happy? Lovely weather. Nice to be alive when it's like this, isn't it?
Interesting there that asking people to measure their happiness seems to make them happy for an instant as well.
It does, you're right.
Joining us to talk about International Happiness Day are Natalie Samarasinghe from the UN Association, joining us from London, and here in the studio, Mark Williamson from Action for Happiness. Morning, Mark.
Morning.
Which is what, Action for Happiness?
Well, we are a movement of people from all around the world who believe that happiness really matters. It matters for our governments, as we talked about here, with measuring progress in more than just economic terms, but of course it matters for us as individuals in the way we approach our lives.
Natalie, so the UN has declared it International Day of Happiness. So why is it that important to the UN as well? People might say, well, aren't there other things the UN should be worrying about?
Of course. So we at the UN Association try to support the UN's goals of creating a safer, fair and more sustainable world. And we think happiness is really important for that. I think too often our economic and development policies focus on figures. So we look at things like, has GDP increased, or are more children now in school? These things are really important, but they only tell us a part of the story. What we should be looking at is not just whether children are in school, but what kind of education they're getting, whether that's actually translating into equipping them for their later lives. And in terms of GDP, we shouldn't just look at whether it's increased, but whether that has translated into real gains for people in terms of their living standards and access to healthcare and education. So happiness is just a way of saying that we need better ways to measure our progress and our success, and that will help us design better policies for development.
Yeah, Natalie, though, some people would suggest that the UN's job is really to sort out international conflicts, and people would be happier in places like Syria if there was no more fighting, and the UN should concentrate on that.
Absolutely, but I think the point here is that in any policy that we make, whether it's development or security or human rights, we need to look at the outcomes for people. So I think in your segment before, we saw that happiness means very different things to different people. But I think that most people would agree that there are certain basic conditions that need to be met, such as security, having enough to eat, a roof over your head. So by putting people and the outcomes for their lives at the heart of everything that we do, I think that leads to better approaches to how we solve conflict as well.
And Mark, Natalie touches on something there that, it's very difficult to measure happiness, isn't it? How do you measure it?
Well, it is difficult, but actually what we know from the scientific research now is that when you ask people about how their lives are going, how they feel about their lives, that matters. It really means something. And so I think it's vital that our leaders take this very seriously and sort of recognise that there are things we can do to improve people's well-being. But I should just say that although this is a political issue in some ways, it's about countries taking the well-being and happiness seriously, there's also a very personal angle to this as well. And today, on this very first United Nations Day of Happiness, there's actually encouragingly millions of people around the world getting involved and recognising that actually there are things we can do to improve the well-being of the nation through the way we treat each other. And so we're celebrating today people that do a lot to bring happiness to others.
Yeah, it's about a state of mind more than anything else, and the difficulty is if you're trying to improve that or measure it, it's a state of mind that changes from one day to another, surely.
It does change from day to day, but actually, when we talk about happiness, we really mean how do we feel about our lives overall? How are our lives going? That includes our relationships, our economic situation, our thoughts for the future, our family life, and so on. And of course, today we're talking a lot about the economy with the budget, and people are belt tightening and focusing on themselves a lot. Actually, what's happening, what's I think really encouraging on this day of happiness, is all around the world people are thinking, what can I do to make others happier? And that's the theme for the activities going on internationally today.
Natalie, and also, as Mark was mentioning, it is budget day. What can governments do? I mean, we're living in tough times. People might say there are easy fixes that the government could do to make us all happier.
I'm sure. I mean, actually, the concept of happiness is one that has very deep roots at the UN. It goes way back to, I think, the 1990s and even earlier, when there was a move to look beyond economic growth as means to develop progress and deliver gains for people in a country. It's all about the concept of human development. And so in this country, as in other countries, actually looking not just at the hard figures, as it were, but looking at policies that will really improve the quality of people's lives is incredibly important.
All right.
Thank you very much, Natalie.
Thank you very much. And Mark, thanks to you as well. Thank you both.